Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
You're listening to Make Some Noise Minisode number 650.
Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, a Minisode. Thank you for being here. As usual, I have immense gratitude for you spending some time with me. And today's Minisode, I laugh because it is a topic that is, I don't know if I should say near and dear to my heart. It is only because it's one of the hardest practices in personal growth that I deal with. It might not be hard for you. You might hear this topic and say, easy. I got that one. Other topics are tricky for me, but this one easy. That topic is letting go and learning the practice of detachment. Detachment. Raise your hand if you're like me and you tend to get attached. Not necessarily just to people, but to outcomes, to wanting to know the right answer, wanting to know what's next, just wanting to control situations, environments, people, circumstances, outcomes, anything and everything. As I've mentioned 7,467 times on the podcast, I got the word surrender tattooed on my arm in my own handwriting in 2016 as a reminder to myself to work on letting go. That was my second tattoo, and it happened after my dad died, after I had spent 2 months in the deepest grief I had ever experienced. And it wasn't so much the grief itself, it was the emotion of it. It was the overwhelmingness of it, and knowing that I didn't have any control over it. It was on its own timeline. There was nothing I can do except totally surrender. I had the same experience giving birth to my daughter and having a moment where you're like, well, I am not in the driver's seat here. This is not a moment for me to try to control the speed, can try to control what gear I'm in, can try to control the timeline. None of those things are going to happen. So this is a big topic. Before we get into the content, I do want to remind you that this month, January 2025, I am doing some live group coaching calls that are free. So come on in, ask your questions. If you want to have some laser coaching, let's do it. One of my superpowers is asking powerful questions, getting really curious. Speaking of attachment, when I get on these calls, whether it's a group call like this or you're my client, I am unattached to your outcome. That's the beauty of coaching. I'm only attached to you getting clarity. I'm only attached to you finding a path towards your own solution, towards your own conclusion, towards your own next best step. That's what coaching is, and that's what these calls are. So come on board. You can either ask a question or volunteer to get laser coached around a certain topic. I will, for sake of time, I will ask a bunch of questions for you to journal on. And I think so many of these topics are universal. So even if you don't have a question, you'll learn from other people. All right. Go to AndreaOwen.com/52-ways. You'll see a button to sign up for that, and it'll be in the show notes. So letting go and surrendering outcomes. Again, this is something many of us struggle with. So to summarize it, the question would be this: how much energy do you spend trying to control situations, trying to control people, trying to control outcomes that are out of your hands? So what we're going to do is talk about what it means to surrender and let go without giving up on what matters. So the goal of this episode, I'm going to share some tangible steps to recognize where control creeps in, where that kind of need for certainty can take over and become an obstacle really in our growth, and how to develop a practice of surrender. This is one that I'm actively working on all the time. So I thought, why not bring it to a minisode? All right. First, let's talk about the struggle with letting go. I talked about this at length too, you guys, and how to stop feeling like shit. If you look at the chapter, I don't remember which number it is, but the chapter on control is a lot about this. So we try to control because we fear uncertainty. We're humans. We're always trying to be safe. Of course, our brains want to do that. We fear uncertainty. We want to protect ourselves. We want to protect our future. We want to protect other people that we care about. And, we can't also just step over that our ego needs for things to, quote unquote, go the correct way. It needs to go the right way. It needs to be right. I'm using like air quotes over here because we don't actually know, right? But we make up a story about where things need to go. What is the right way? What is the wrong way? And our ego wants things to go right. So, I think that if you're listening to this, you're like, yeah, that's me. Or maybe you're listening to this and you're like, no, that's not me. But at any rate, I'm going to give you a few things, like a checklist of signs that you might be struggling with this. And it's a spectrum. It truly is a spectrum. But if you are feeling exhausted, frustrated, or anxious, nervous over outcomes, if you do something called future tripping, where you are ruminating, maybe obsessing on the future, get anxious about it. If you have strained relationships from trying to micromanage and control things, codependence is a topic underneath this umbrella, very much. If you also have difficulty handing things over to people and delegating, allowing someone to do it their way, raise his hand. I'm better, but I used to really struggle here. If you have difficulty delegating, or even if you have difficulty asking for help, quick example that might be a more practical one. When I was married before my second marriage, I'm collecting them, by the way, marriages. In my second marriage, I got to a point where I was like, there are too many tasks that I'm in charge of. It feels really unfair and imbalanced. So I had a conversation with my ex-husband. It was my then husband. And I said, hey, I wasn't as nice as I'm going to paint the example right now. But I said, hey, I feel like this list is unbalanced of the duties here at home, the labor. What do you think if we made this more balanced? And in all seriousness, he said, sure. What can I take on? What can I take off your plate? That part is real, though. He did ask how he could take some of the labor off my plate. And I looked at the list and I thought to myself, I don't want him to do it his way, though. I want to give these tasks over because I don't want to do them anymore, but I really am attached to him doing them the way I would do them. And I can't be with that if he's not going to do it my way. So that was a big moment for me of like, I think this is a topic I need to work on. Because it was impacting my marriage. It was not only impacting me, it was impacting my marriage. So that's just a little personal example there. All right. Before I get into the practices, the tips I'm going to give you, I don't even like calling them tips because that makes it sound like add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar to your drink and you'll feel better. they're a little bigger than that. But I want to always ask you to reflect on your own life. And what better way to do that than give you some prompts? I am going to, so if you have a pen, paper, if you want to, rewind, do they call it rewind on a podcast? To these questions for later. Here's some powerful questions to ask yourself if you struggle with this topic. Some reflection prompts. All right. Where in your life are you gripping too tightly? Is it at home with your partner? Like I just gave you that example. Is it in your parenting with your children? Is it in your work? Are you a team lead that maybe struggles with this? Is it with your goals? Maybe you're just being really inflexible with them. And also, what are your fears that are driving this control? What are you afraid might happen if you surrender? Are you afraid of failure? Are you afraid of judgment? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you afraid of not? There's so many different things that you can be afraid of. So dig deep in that. Nothing is wrong. No answer is wrong when you're doing these reflections. What are the fears driving the control? And maybe what are the beliefs? Maybe it's not fears, but it's more so beliefs. Do you believe you're the only one that can do it right? Do you believe that if you're not in charge of it, it's not going to get done? Do you believe that if you can't see it, it's too scary to just let it go and like trust that someone or something else is just going to take care of it? Before I move on, I want to highlight that control is often an illusion. This is something that I think about. I'm like, oh, damn. We can influence things. We can do our best to sort of be the sheep herding dog that influences where the herd moves, whatever the herd is, whether it's people or situations. But we cannot guarantee the outcome. We cannot do it for them. We can't force it many times. So sometimes it's helpful to remember that control is often an illusion, or at best, it's a stack of rocks that's kind of teetering. And you're just trying to create the best balance that you can. All right, we're going to take a quick ad break. And when we get back, I'm going to get into the tips and strategies on surrendering. If you're a woman over 40 dealing with perimenopause, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. Did you know there are so many perimenopause symptoms? Hot flashes and night sweats, trouble sleeping, painful sex, vaginal dryness, and libido change, weight and body changes, brain fog and memory lapses, moodiness, anxiety and depression, period problems, hair and skin changes, joint pain, bone loss, and fracture risk. The experts at MIDI Health understand what you're experiencing and know how to help. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions. Visits and prescriptions are covered by major insurance providers, no membership fees or hidden costs. If you're uninsured or Medicare is out of network under your plan, they also offer affordable cash payment for services. I know for me, as I'm about to turn 50 in 2025, finding a doctor that specializes in perimenopause and menopause is incredibly important. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.
All right, we're back. I want to just make sure that we're clear on what surrender is and isn't. What was interesting is that when I was thinking about getting my tattoo, and I posted on Facebook about it, and there were a handful of people that did not like the word surrender. And they said, no way, I'm never giving in. I'm never giving up. They had a negative connotation to the word. And I thought that was interesting. And, you're allowed to view words however you want. That's not up to me. I'm not going to try to control that. But in my opinion, I love the word surrender because it represents letting go. And to me, letting go isn't giving up at all. It's separate. Letting go is trusting the process while staying committed to what matters. It's trusting any process that I truly have no control over. It's trusting, for me, it goes even deeper than that. It is trusting that the universe, divine love, spirit, source, whatever you want to call it, always has my back. The universe will always catch me. The universe is always taking care of me. And what does that look like? That looks like my own resilience. Like the tangible thing, like in real life, what does that look like? My own resilience. It's trusting that process while staying committed to what matters. And what matters to me comes down to my values. What's important about the way that I want to live my life? That might look different for you. It's different for every individual person. So what we can control are our own values, our own North Star, if you will. So for me, my values are trust, big surprise, courage, responsibility. Those three values have been steadfast for me for the past many years. There have been years where I've honored them more than others. The last few years I have fallen a bit off track, but I'm back in 2025. I've added another value onto that. And I will talk about this in a future minisode that's coming up here. And that value is devotion. That's also, side note, my word of the year. I'm doing a word of the year this year for the very first time, I think ever. It's devotion. More on that later. Detachment does not mean apathy. It doesn't. It means releasing the need, the clinging, and sometimes releasing the obsession, sometimes that we have for a specific outcome to be okay, for a specific outcome to be the right one. That's what detachment means. All right. So I have 5 steps to practice surrender. They are not in order. They're just 5 steps that you can think about practicing, and you can reflect on these. The first one, and P.S., I don't get these right all the time. This is a practice for me too. I just organized my thoughts. I was like, hey, what are the things that I do that make this work as best as possible? What are the things that I do that put me on the path towards trying my best to practice surrender and detachment? And here they are. The first one is that you got to ground yourself. And this is something I've had an on again, off again relationship. And as I enter the year that I'm about to turn 50, more on that later, these kinds of practices become essential. They are becoming like hygiene to me. I've talked to you guys about that, how there are certain things in your life, like your non-negotiables that I wrote about in 52 Ways to Live a Kick-Ass Life, like your values, that they need to be more than just like, oh, that would be nice if I did those. They need to be like how important it is to brush your goddamn teeth. It needs to be important, like taking a shower regularly. So grounding yourself are practices like mindfulness. If you use meditation or yoga or some kind of movement that grounds you, This can very much look like breath work, which is something I'm working on leaning more into. It can also very much look like journaling, to reflect, to take a moment to slow down your brain and your body and make them work together. It's really about doing your best to connect with the present moment. Okay, so grounding yourself is number one. Number two is to do something to affirm trust of yourself and of the universe, whatever it is that you lean on that's bigger than yourself. Might just be energy, your energy, whatever source is that. It's using phrases like, I trust myself to handle whatever happens. I trust my own resilience if this doesn't work out the way that I want it to. It is safe for me to let go. So you might know how I feel about positive affirmations. I don't love them when they are used by themselves, and I really don't love them if no other work is being done besides the positive affirmations, because when you're just using positive affirmations and no other personal growth work, you are only using your brain, and your brain is very, very advanced. You're very, very smart. We can get into neuroplasticity and all that, but I won't right now. But these particular phrases, these examples that I gave you, are more neutral. They are stepping stones towards positive affirmations, but I don't think that they're positive affirmations in and of themselves. So again, I'll repeat them. I trust myself to handle whatever happens. I trust the universe to guide me to the next best right step for me. It is safe for me to let go. Whatever is on the other side, I can handle. I have enough resilience within me to handle whatever gets handed to me. So that's what I mean when I say affirm trust. I use that step a lot when I have jumped out of the airplane and my parachute won't open type of situation. Like when shit hits the fan, I'm like, oh, goddamn. I don't like where I'm at. And I especially don't know what's going to happen in the next hour. And my point with that anecdote is that it can be a little more helpful if you practice it on the regular instead of those kind of emergency moments. All right. That was number two. Number three, release in small ways. So if this is a big topic for you, I recommend practicing this with low stakes things, areas of your life. So maybe you tend to obsess over text messages that you get that are short responses from a friend or even a partner or your coworker's opinion. Maybe start with that instead of your mom's opinion or a disagreement or argument that you had with your partner. Do you see what I mean? They're different. One is like an 8 in terms of the emotional response that you'll get. The other ones might be like between 3 and 5. So practice in smaller ways so you can work up to surrendering to the bigger stuff. The fourth thing is to focus on your efforts and not the outcome. This has been something that I've been really trying to work on in all areas of my personal growth, and it can be enormously helpful when it comes to surrendering and detachment. So, in other words, you are celebrating what is in your control, like the things that you've already done. What are the things that you have successfully worked on and even in a small way, let go of the outcome. You could see this in parenting. If any of you have parented through the teenage years and beyond, look back at the times where you have, even if you were forced, even if you went in kicking and screaming, forced to let go of your children's behavior as they venture into adulthood and trusting that they are going to make the best decisions for themselves, even if you think they are terrible, but they're going to learn their lessons on the other side. I even encourage you to celebrate when you have any moment that you can think of where you have been forced to let go of an outcome or someone else's behavior where you originally didn't want to, or you even tried to control it, and then you realized you were forced to let it go, and then you saw that it worked out as it was gonna work out. You may not have even liked the outcome, but you did it. You did let go. Celebrate those moments because it allows you to look back and see that you made it. You made it through. And bonus on that one, if you can look back at the lessons that you learned from letting go of that, again, whether you wanted to let go or not, whether you were forced to let go or you did it on your own accord, what did you learn from it? Did you learn that you were actually able to survive it? Did you learn that it might have been a lot easier if you would have consciously let go? Did you learn that other people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, even if you think that they could do better or be better? Focus on your efforts and not the outcome. All right, we need to take one more quick ad break. And when we get back, I'm going to talk to you about the fifth and final step. We'll be right back.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.
Lynn, this time of year, parenting can be such a flusterclux.
You've come to the right place. I'm Lynn Lyons, and I've been treating anxious families for over 30 years.
I'm Lynn's sister-in-law and co-host Robin Hudson.
Join us for Flusterclux, a podcast for parents who worry.
Wait, that's everybody.
Yeah, these last few years have felt like one long anxiety attack for so many.
Why do you think parents are always surprised that a podcast about anxiety relates to them, even if no one in their house has an anxiety disorder?
Well, worry is human. Everyone does it. And anxiety shows up when we face uncertainty.
All the parenting tips you've taught me have been essential.
I love to break it down into skills we need to manage worry in our families.
We've covered so many topics: depression, burnout, meltdowns, perfectionism.
Don't forget scary mothers-in-law.
Right, but of course that's not my mother-in-law.
Because that's my mother.
And a listener.
As a psychotherapist, I like to teach parents and kids how to respond to everyday moments in healthy ways.
Managing anxiety really can be taught.
It really can. And I'll even tell you what to say.
We talk about serious stuff, but without being too serious.
Anxiety wants everything serious. Anxiety doesn't stand a chance when we're laughing, even about the tough stuff.
And the fifth one is to practice regularly. This topic, this exercise is like a muscle. It strengthens with use. You got to put in the reps and sets and try to make it a daily habit. I mean, this is why trust is on my list of values, is because it's a whopper. It's about trusting other people, yes, because I've had issues with that in the past and I'm working on it. I've come so far. More on that later. P.S. Note to self. Do a Minisode on that, trusting others and what I've learned and how to do it and why it matters. But as it relates to this topic, trusting myself. For me, having one of my values, my top values, be trusting myself and focusing on that over the last almost decade has allowed me to, I think it's really sort of pointed me in the direction. It was like a compass headed to where I am now in 2025, and massively trusting myself more than I used to. And my life is radically different right now than it was 10 years ago. And I did not expect it to be this way, or maybe there's a part of me that did. However, it feels so much better, you guys. The level of peace I have in my body and in my mind and in my heart and my soul is radically more than it was 10 years ago when I was gripping control, outcomes, attachment, certainty. It is a complete 180 change. Another mental note too, talk about that more in 2025, because I want that for you. I absolutely want that for you. All right, wrapping it up. To summarize, surrendering isn't about being passive. It's not. It's about freeing up the energy for what you can control and trusting life to unfold on its own terms and trusting that it is all for your benefit. I want you to remember that the most beautiful things in life often come when we release the grip that we have on it and when we allow space for the unexpected to come into our life. It is a gift when that happens. So I would love for you a couple options for you. You can rewind this, go back to those 5 steps that I talked about, see where you can put those into your life. One small practice of letting go this week or this month, and reflect on how it feels. Again, a reminder to go to AndreaOwen.com/52-ways to sign up for our free Zoom group coaching calls. And I have some exciting things coming up this year. 2025 is going to be big for me as a facilitator of personal growth. The services and offers that I have for you for me to be able to guide you, for you to show up fully in 2025 and beyond. So if you want to be the first to know the offers that I have, there's going to be all kinds of different ones. Make sure that you're on my email list. If you go to AndreaOwen.com/free, you can sign up there. And I even am changing the way that I do emails, y'all. So big stuff happening in 2025. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Because when you show up for yourself, you show up for others and for the world. And that being said, remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now. Hey, did you know there's free secret podcast episodes waiting for you that are not part of my regular podcast feed? Yes. AndreaOwen.com/free. And you just sign up. You get a link sent to you. It's very secret. It's like a secret club. We don't have a secret handshake. Don't worry about that. But it's these motivating podcast episodes that I made for you. They're under 20 minutes each. There's 3 of them. They're for wherever you are in your life. So head on over there and grab them. They range from really supporting you and seeing you where you are and being compassionate, all the way to giving you a giant kick in your ass and telling you how amazing and gorgeous and phenomenal you are. So AndreaOwen.com/free and get your hands on that free podcast feed.
Hello, you sentient ball of stardust. My name is Casey Davis. I'm a therapist and I'm an author of the book How to Keep House While Drowning, where I talk about ways to make it a little bit easier to take care of yourself when you're overwhelmed, stressed, have mental health issues, physical health issues, or maybe you're just in a hard season of life. Maybe you're looking for a place that you can come and listen to some practical advice. This is a podcast for all of the self-help rejects. We're going to talk about skills for survival and self-kindness. And I'm going to leave the pop psychology at the door. I promise not to tell you to meditate or to journal. We're just going to give you some really insightful conversations with hopefully some practical advice. So I don't believe you need to pick yourself up by the bootstraps. I don't want you to just try harder, and I don't believe that laziness exists. So join me over on Struggle Care, where we can find compassionate solutions that help us function a little bit better.